My second question, last question is about sim writing process. Do you guys like outsource that or do it in-house yourself?
I do it in-house. I have gotten to a point where I put very little in the sim, and because people don't want to read. And so what I do now is I do a very brief sim, but and when I send it out for review, I also send a link to a video interview with the seller. And then I have a web page that's got a Q&A from a video interview. So I have a list of I don't know, 15 or so topics that I'll ask them about, like, tell me about the background history of the business. And then they talk. So I have a Q&A page that just says background history of the business. So if somebody they're interested in that, they can click on that and they'll get that video. So that's how I do it, the Sims now, because like I said, people don't want to read. And to spend a lot of time writing narratives and all that, what I found is that, the sim, if I keep it brief and just put pictures in it and images or graphics, charts, things like that they can see at a glance and turn the page. If they're interested in further information, they'll go to the videos and then they'll learn from that. And if they're not, then that's fine. So all the high level information just goes in the sim. So, but yeah, I used to spend hours putting really detailed sims together, and it's just, and what would happen is you send them out and then the people get them and then they call you and start asking you the same questions. You already have the information in there. It's just like, no, I don't have time for that.
But with the video, they do not ask the same question with your video, no?
No, what's really interesting, and the video serves another purpose too. The buyers really like it because they're hearing the information directly from the seller. They're seeing the seller, they're hearing the seller's voice, and they're establishing a relationship with the seller in some way without taking the seller's time. So most of the sellers really like it because they're not having to answer the same questions, the same basic questions, and have the same basic conversation with 6 or 8 different people. They do it once with me. We record it, and then we put it out there. So it minimizes the number of meetings that they have to have, which saves them time. But also, by the time we do have a meeting, the buyer already feels like they know the seller because they've already heard them talking about the business, and they've already heard their voice, seen their face, and they already feel like they have a relationship there. So it's kind of been a very interesting process, but it's very effective, and buyers and sellers both like it. I do have a couple sellers that have said, no, I don't want to do the video interview for whatever reason. And it's so much harder and so much more complicated without it, quite honestly. So yeah, I really highly encourage the sellers to do those video interviews because it just makes the entire process so much easier now.
But how long it lasts for the video? Is it less than 10 minutes or how long?
Yeah, well, like I said, I have different questions. So I have somebody segment them by topic so that the Q&A page has the topic or the question, and then however long it took them to answer that. So it might be a 2-minute video, might be a 12-minute video. It just depends on how detailed they got in response to that particular topic.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's definitely the first time I've heard about videos, because what I mostly heard is that you communicate with the seller and then you synthesize this information, put that in the sim instead of like sharing the whole video to the end buyer directly. So that's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, no, I like the buyers to be able to see the seller and, hear them, hear everything directly from them. Communication is really important, right? And on a phone call, verbal communication is only 7% of the overall deal. when you can see somebody, you can see them talking about their business. Do they have any passion about the business? You know, there's just a lot that you can get from visual cues that you cannot get certainly in a written page or a typed page. And even if you just have an audio from the seller without the video, it's not nearly as effective. So, Louis.
What is a CIM?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's a confidential information memorandum. It's CIM
Oh,
for
okay.
short. Confidential information memorandum. And then also IBBA uses another term as well, a CBR, which is a confidential business review. So you'll see those two used interchangeably, CBRs and CIMs.
So those are used when
by,
you get it from the seller, he fills it out, and then you give it to the buyer. No, send it to the buyer. It's like a NDA or a confidential agreement.
No, a confident. So the CIM is what you send out after the buyer has signed the confidentiality agreement or the NDA. So the buyer signs the NDA, and only then are you going to release information about the business that contains the business name and the owners and the management structure and all of the information.
Is that a legal process, or is that the correct process, the way it should be? I'm going because it just seems in certain demographics they just you get that information, they'll send it all over. Like, I mean, it's kind of what I'm getting at. Is that protocol, like to do the NDAC and then do the CIM, or no?
Yeah, well, it depends on if you're dealing with somebody who has had any training in business brokerage. So if they've had any training and background in business brokerage, then yes, there is a process, and they are going to have a document that has the confidential information about the business. It might be 5 pages, it might be 20 pages, or it might be longer depending on the type and complexity of the business. But that is not going to be given to anybody or to any buyer or prospective buyer until after they've signed an NDA. And then once they've signed the NDA, then that information is released to them.
Okay.
So yeah, and there are, I've seen things in BizBuySell and in other listing systems where you inquire about it, and they'll just they'll send you financials, or they'll send you whatever. And usually that's because they're either for sale by owner. And so they don't know that, they're not educated. They're trying to sell the business themselves, and they're not concerned, I guess, about confidentiality, and they don't know what the risks are. Or sometimes it's like a commercial or residential agent that, again, have had just no training. And so when you think about it, when you're selling property, usually what do? They put a sign out in front of it, right? They want everybody to see that the property is for sale, so that they can sell it as quickly as possible. But in business sales, it's different, because in business sales, depending on the type of business, confidentiality is really critical. If they have certain suppliers that have given them terms, and the suppliers find out the business is for sale, the suppliers might change them to COD. And that interrupts or disrupts their cash flow. It can be very detrimental in the business. They may have a key employee who gets very nervous about, oh my God, this business is going to be sold. I don't know if I'll like the new manager, or, the owner didn't even ask me if I want to buy it. So you can get hurt feelings. You can get just people that the uncertainty. A lot of people are fine with what's known, even if it's unfavorable. They'd rather stick with an unfavorable known than going to something that is unknown. And so the prospect of a business being sold, oftentimes the key employees find out, they're going to start looking elsewhere. And now if you lose key employees, now you've just lost a substantial amount of business value. So, you know, a business that was worth $800,000 that loses a key employee might now only be worth $600,000. So, yeah, I mean, there's very little good that can come from breaching confidentiality. There's a whole lot of bad things that can happen. So it's pretty important.
Thank you.